Hey guys, with the added attention of Heroes of the Storm between the new changes they've made in the game, as well as the competitive scene coming back a little bit, I did want to talk a little bit about some of the cheaper heroes in this game. I want to start a quick start guide series, which is going to help everyone get an easy to play but effective build for these 2,000 gold heroes so that people that are just starting this game can understand a playstyle of an inexpensive hero, a good build that will keep them going, as well as just kind of getting them quick started into this game. They could fill out their roster with strong heroes and decent builds. So let's get started with E.T.C. So what E.T.C has is he is a tank and one of the best tanks in the game, so it's great that he's only 2,000 gold. E.T.C has some very, very powerful abilities, starting off with his power slide. His power slide is a rather fast dash that will stun everyone that he passes through for 1.25 seconds, which in this game is quite a long stun. I often tell people that power slide is your real ultimate ability because it stuns for longer than many people's ultimate abilities stun for. For example, light bomb stuns for 1.25 seconds, and that's a 50-second or 60-second cooldown. And so this is a huge ability with a ton of value. It's also your only escape, though. So keep in mind, the biggest tip that I'm going to give about this is you want to look for the enemy's mistakes. And it's difficult to see mistakes when you're new, but you want to look for areas where the enemies have stepped up a little too far. And once your team starts attacking that target, they've stepped up far enough to where your whole team can benefit from that extra 1.25 seconds that you're giving them. Now, you're going to see a knockback that I keep doing a little bit after I get a couple attacks off, and that is your next ability called Face Melt. Face Melt will knock back all enemies around you by a small amount and do a small amount of damage. Then your last ability is Guitar Solo. You can regenerate health over 4 seconds and has a low cooldown. It also has a low mana cost. I recommend using this ability pretty much off cooldown during fights, as it's your best way to stay in fights a little bit longer. So generally what you want to be doing with this is you want to slide in and you want to body block for a little while, giving your team time to do damage. Then you want to knock back the enemy closer to your team and knock back the enemies further away from your team so your team gets more time to kill that target. Your E is being used off cooldown, and that is the basic playstyle of E.T.C. Let's get into the talents that I recommend. The first talent that I recommend is Prog Rock. You gather regen globes, which regen globes are the globes that you can pick up from this wizard minion in the middle. Every wizard minion will drop a globe, and you can pick it up while it's blue when the enemies can't pick it up. And then your minion will also drop a globe, and if either of those globes stay out long enough, they will turn purple for either team to pick up. If you pick up one globe, it increases the healing per second of your guitar solo by 5 and up to 100. If you pick up 20, you can heal nearby allies for a little bit. The radius is very small though, so I generally don't recommend overthinking that particular part of it. It's mainly just a great talent to increase the extra healing of your E. Level 4, we have Loudspeaker, increasing the range and knockback radius of your W. Level 7, I generally recommend Pinball Wizard. Don't overthink this talent though. You're going to charge in, get an auto attack off or two, make sure your team lands their abilities because that's more important than the extra damage of your W. But the extra damage can be a significant amount and crit even tanks for about 10% of their health. Then, level 10, I recommend Mosh Pit. The biggest thing about Mosh Pit is that you want to try to hit this on as many people that can interrupt your mosh as possible. That's any stuns, silences, even things that move you around. Before you know the roster, it's going to be a little bit difficult to know what will interrupt Mosh Pit, so do your best to hit as many people as possible with your slide, and then mosh while they're still stunned from your slide, because Mosh Pit has a small window where you can be interrupted or they can walk out of it, which is why I recommend sliding so that they're stunned while your channel of mosh is going off, which then stuns them for 4 seconds. So the entire duration of your stun will end up being 5 seconds. 1 from this, and then also the 4 from this, up to 5.25 if you really want to get technical. Level 13, you have the choice between Mic Check and Encore. Encore, I find new players try too hard to lower the cooldown of their mosh pit, so I instead recommend Mic Check. It's a great tool for peeling, and it allows you to save your team for much longer. And so you hit 2 people with your W, and it shaves down the cooldown to about 4 or 5 seconds. Actually, it's technically down to 6 seconds, but it just kind of seems really low. And then you can continue peeling. So during long fights, you can kind of just do this, heal yourself. Again, the next time they try to get close to your team, you just hit again. And it's a really nice talent for keeping the enemies away, keeping melee heroes off of your team, which is very common in the lower ranks of the game. And so that's that. Now, level 16, I recommend aggressive shredding. The more you basic attack, the lower cooldown your guitar solo is. Combine that with prog rock, and you've got yourself quite a bit of healing in team fights, as well as a little bit of armor, as every ability that you activate will give you 20 armor for 2 seconds. So you'll almost consistently have that 20 armor for the game. Level 20, it is a little bit confusing, but what I will say is if you are going mosh pit, if they are frontline heavy, you go death metal because they can't kill you without getting moshed. If they are backline heavy, you go bolt of the storm, so you can bolt and then slide and mosh their backline while their frontline can't deal with it. And if they don't have a lot of interrupts, you can go with Tor Bus, because then you can mosh and then slide to extend the duration of your mosh. Finally, if they have enough damage to 100 to 0 someone in your backline, like a Zeratul, I sometimes take Storm Shield. Those are kind of my rules for those. And that is E.T.C. Once again, I just want to share that the best slides are whenever your team is already attacking the target. So I spend usually the first half of a team fight just kind of making sure that my team's okay. I keep the enemies off my team. And when my team's finally attacking the right target, I'll go in with a slide. I'll let them get enough time to land their abilities. And then I'll hit with a face melt, knocking them closer to my team. And I'll continue using my E off cooldown. If you can wait until a lot of the enemies are grouped up, landing a good slide into a mosh can be absolutely game-changing, but moshing away from your team is a waste of one of the longest cooldown abilities in the game, which means that you want to try to use your mosh while you're near your team, and oftentimes, you don't need to hit everyone at once. You can simply just solo mosh someone like a tank that's out of position, as long as your team is still near you. Making sure that you're only sliding targets and moshing while your team is near you is extremely important. Using your W and your E off cooldown is perfectly fine to keep your team safe while you're waiting for the right amount of damage before you get a power slide or a mosh pit. And that is E.T.C. I do want to point out that as of level 7, you take the Pinball Wizard, a couple basic attacks into the backline minions, allows you to slide through the entire minion wave and use a W to clear the entire minion wave. So this is some wave clear potential that you have on E.T.C, and it allows you to soak a couple lanes rather quickly and can keep you in the game, especially in the early game, since early waves of soak are worth more than kills. So soaking for your team and double soaking when there's no objective fights going on can be very beneficial. And that is your quick start guide into E.T.C. Make sure to follow, subscribe to check out the quick start guides for the other 2000 gold heroes in the game, and hopefully this helps out some intermediate players as well, learning the different tools. E.T.C is one of the heroes I used on my Smurf, 80% win rate all the way up to Masters, so keep in mind he's great at all ranks, and he is also still being used in the competitive scene at the highest levels. Thank you guys so much for watching, and feel free to check out my other videos.